Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. I'm Jesse Waters in for Tucker. We've learned a lot about Joe Biden in the last year. For one, we know he's not the same old Scranton Joe that represented Delaware in the Senate for decades, or the old tough guy Joe who saved the day by fighting off corn pop. He's not even the same Joe Biden who was Barack Obama's vice president. That Joe Biden is gone, and he's been gone for a while. In 2021, Biden confirmed what many of us could see during the presidential campaign. He is decaying. That is not an attack on Biden. He's nearly 80 years old. Anyone who's watched Joe Biden can see it. It's a fact we take no pleasure in stating. Nobody is happy when the President of the United States stumbles over his words or forgets where he is. We don't enjoy watching him fall asleep in the middle of an overseas summit. But his decline is hard to ignore. His latest example came just last night in an interview with ABC News. Joe Biden struggled to remember the name of the latest COVID variant, called Omicron. But maybe that's not exactly a surprise, since Joe Biden also told us he didn't even see Omicron coming.
The vice president said in recent days that you didn't see Delta coming, you didn't see Omicron coming. How did you get it wrong?
How did we get it wrong? Nobody saw it coming. Nobody in the whole world. Who saw it coming?
The Omicron variant has been around for weeks. The World Health Organization announced its existence in late November, and the U.S. government designated it as a concern days later. But somehow Joe Biden missed all of that. If the President of the United States acknowledging he was completely unaware of the incoming COVID variants wasn't bad enough, Biden then confused coronavirus tests with pills. He sounded like he had no idea what he was talking about, as he frequently does. And then he told us the lack of available coronavirus tests for the variant he also tells us we're supposed to be scared of isn't a failure.
You told the American people just yesterday that we are prepared for what's coming. But 3 days before Christmas, if you look out across the country, you see it everywhere, these long lines, people waiting for hours outside in the cold just to get tested, empty shelves, no test kits. Is that a failure?
No, I don't think it's a failure. I think it's, you could argue that we should have known a year ago, 6 months ago, 2 months ago, a month ago. I've ordered 500 million of the pills, 500 million pills. 500 million test kits that are going to be available to be sent to every home in America if anybody wants them. But the answer is, yeah, I wish I had thought about ordering 500 million pills 2 months ago before COVID hit here.
That is who has the final say on public health in this country. A man who can't differentiate between tests and pills, or Delta and Omicron. The same Joe Biden who told us earlier this year vaccines prevent transmission. Quote, "You're not gonna get COVID if you have these vaccinations," unquote. That's who's at the helm. Americans expect the leader of the free world to inspire confidence heading into the new year. Instead, Joe Biden confessed that nothing has been good enough. And in what was likely his last interview before millions of Americans hope to gather for Christmas, Joe Biden told the country that only vaccinated Americans are permitted to celebrate one of our nation's most sacred holidays.
We're nearly 2 years into this pandemic. You're a year into the presidency. Empty shelves and no test kits in some places, 3 days before Christmas when it's so important. Is that good enough?
No, nothing's been good enough. But look where we are. If you are tested, if you know where you are in terms of having gotten the shots, there's no reason why you can't get together with your family and your friends. We couldn't do that last Christmas.
If we learned anything new about Joe Biden last night, it's this. A year of failures and errors on everything from the economy to lockdowns and mandates, the border and Afghanistan, have all taken their toll. Joe Biden is completely dejected, and he knows it. And if there was ever any doubt about Biden's health or cognitive ability, he put that all to rest yesterday. Biden actually admitted his own health was a legitimate question. We don't have to guess anymore. Joe Biden says his health could prevent him from running for re-election in 2024.
I want to ask you about something I asked weeks before the election when we sat down. You said you would absolutely serve 8 years if elected. Do you plan to run for re-election?
Yes. But look, I'm a great respecter of fate. Fate has intervened in my life many, many times. If I'm in the health I'm in now, if I'm in good health, then, in fact, I would run again.
And if that means a rematch against Donald Trump?
You're trying to tempt me now. Sure. Why would I not run against Donald Trump for the nominee? That would increase the prospect of running.
We can't think of any other time where a president has speculated about the decline of his own health. What's worse is Joe Biden thinks his current state is the definition of good health. But he isn't fooling anybody. We see it. The American people see it. And surely his staff sees it too. It's why they usually keep him on a very tight script. He's only allowed to speak to reporters when they give him permission. He hardly gives any interviews, and last night showed exactly why. Joe Biden can't speak without embarrassing himself and his own administration. The White House knows all of that, and yet they send him out anyway. Why? Because his opportunist handlers who helped make him the president want you to know he's inept. They want to make it clear Joe Biden's not running things and that they're the ones with the real power. They're trying to accelerate the argument that he needs to be replaced. CNN put it very clearly in a headline this week, quote, "The 11 Democrats who could replace Joe Biden in 2024. What's interesting is that even other Democrats are being challenged about Joe Biden's ability to lead. Kamala Harris was asked about this just a few days ago, and she pretended to be very angry.
So who's the real president of this country? Is it Joe Manchin or Joe Biden, Madam Vice President?
Come on, Charlamagne.
Come
on. It's Joe Biden.
I can't tell sometimes.
No. It's Joe Biden, and don't start talking like a Republican about asking whether or not he's president.
Do you think Joe Manchin is a problem?
It's Joe Biden, and I'm vice president, and my name is Kamala Harris.
Did you notice how Kamala had to state that she was vice president? Almost like she needed to remind us. That's because Kamala Harris is an afterthought. She was an afterthought in the primaries when she was the first Democrat to drop out of the running. Nobody liked her then, and we know with certainty nobody likes her now. Her approval rating is less than 30%, and her staffers can't quit fast enough. So this is the state of the country and the Democratic Party after Joe Biden's first year in office. It's a very chaotic Christmas, and there's no leader to be found. 1 year down, 3 to go.